At the risk of sounding a little corny, I gotta say, guys, in all the time I've stuck my nose into animation as a culture, and if we're judging by video length, I've never had a series ignite so much genuine curiosity or passion in me like The Loud House has, for better or worse. Amidst all the stigmas, morbidities, awful writing, and whatnot, I've never dealt with a TV show that just sparks so much to think about, at least for me. Even at the risk of being associated with certain ideas,
You're not affiliated with me!
I'm surprised I'm still trying to understand as much of this show as I can. For such a simplistic slice-of-life kid show, sometimes it melts my heart in the best of ways, but more frequently, it shows me exactly what not to do as an aspiring writer. It's not like with other popular shows where I understand exactly why people love it, or exactly why people hate it. Here, it's kind of a mixed bag, especially when you disregard all of their fandoms. Yeah, do you guys seriously believe this is the only popular fandom crawling with perverts? So, I figured maybe I could clear my head and talk about the show at least one more time. With that being said, maybe there will be more in the future if people like the videos, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Please and thank you. Well guys, now that all of Season 8 has officially aired in the US, although from where I'm standing it took its sweet time. Seriously, I even watched it in English, what was the holdup?
English, motherfucker! Do you speak it?
I thought I'd take at least one more look at what's going on with the Loud House since the last time I spoke about it, and see if anything's changed for the better. I have doubts, but I want to give my thoughts on several episodes anyway. And no, this is not necessarily another excuse to address the problems in the show, or especially the ones in the fandom. Not that I disagree with most of it, but the internet has said more than enough about that. You should have seen Twitter on its 9th anniversary. Blah 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 incest, blah 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 milking, blah 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 slop, failed spin-offs.
Alright, I get it!
Look, I'm not exactly here to judge the show on the stigmas and abominations of the internet, or the problems behind the scenes. Or in some cases in front of them. What the fuck? Heck, almost every fandom I know has its fair share of disturbing stuff, but somehow I'm the bad guy for saying it in public. Point is that for now, I'm here to judge the show for the show itself. I guess, in the grand scheme of things, I just believe some levity and/or impartiality is warranted because, more often than not, it feels like no one ever talks about the series itself rather than the fandom. And on top of that, misinformation is so rampant that I got commenters thinking that this cartoon ended 3 seasons ago. So today, I'm gonna take a quick look at every episode in their most recent season worth mentioning and give my input because, boy, there are some stinkers. And you might be wondering, am I taking this Nickelodeon cartoon a little too seriously? Tiny bit, but it's what pays the bills. Well, that and my real job. So, let's take a gander, shall we? This is the current state of The Loud House. Season 8 edition? Okay, either the title is too wordy or it's too vague, but screw it. Let's start with the first episode of the season, which holds probably the biggest bombshell it had to offer. Homeward Bound. Lori moves back into town for college for a gap year after just 1 semester? It's never made clear because, well, we know how inconsistent this show's timeline is, but even then, really? Maybe it's because I got my bachelor's in a consecutive 3.5 years, but is taking a gap year so soon really that common? I got a lot of questions that don't need answers, but anywho. As far as the premise is concerned, Lincoln kinda put it best.
Because Lori's always kind of been the glue that holds us together.
I feel like this is the writer's way of admitting that Lori's absence for the most of the show since season 5 kinda put a dent on the quality. The cast felt incomplete, and not to mention, most of the episodes set on her campus were either poorly written or just boring. It feels like the showrunners are just saying, yeah, we screwed up, she's back now. Don't get me wrong, Lori leaving spurred a lot of good character development in her, and even in, say, Lenny, but in the grand scheme of things, this feels like a giant cop-out, and it just spurs even more ambiguity. Is she staying for the rest of the show's runtime? I thought they're ever going to do another permanent time skip. If 1 semester has passed, does that mean we're in January or December? And if that's the case, how is she present in the Halloween special later? Oh, we'll get to you soon enough. Because if that's the case, does this mean another year has already passed?
Does not compute! Does not compute! It does not compute!
As for the episode itself, well, it's mostly fine. Lori tells the family that she wants to find her own place to live, but the Loud Kids really missed her, so they sabotage her apartment hunt. Lori decides to live at home again, but in the meantime, the narrative just tries to hammer in the fact that she's not happy there. Some of it makes sense, but some of it is narratively problematic. Problem 1. Lenny snores and sleep talks. But how did Lori not already know this? You shared a room with her for most of your life. Did she form these habits in the 4 months Lori was gone? We don't know either. Problem 2. The Wi-Fi is inconsistent, but is there any reason to think it was any different back then? Problem 3. Lori gets attacked by Lisa's new security system. A system that conveniently went unnoticed until now. Nothing suggests that any of this should be a surprise, to the point where I'm not really sold on Lori's unhappiness in that aspect. And it gets even more unreasonable. Lenny mistakenly disables Lori's alarm clock since the latter said she needed to sleep well for a job interview, causing Lori to oversleep, but she tries to go anyways? You're already 3 hours late, why even bother showing up? The whole episode tries to sell the fact that Lori wants to leave, but it doesn't prove that she feels the need to. But even with all this, and in a minor capacity, maybe I can overlook all these artificialities because this all leads to one of my favorite moments in the whole series. After seeing how miserable their big sister is, the loud kids fess up about the sabotage. Just take a moment to appreciate all the layers of comedy in those few frames. There's her being so angry her voice changes completely. Still the same actress, by the way. She's so mad her hair is standing on end and it shakes off all the cake residue. Her yell is so strong it turns into a gust. Luan's wig flies off as a result. And Lily is so small that the wind sends her rolling away.
Not the baby!
That's 5 layers of comedy in just those 3 seconds. I swear, man, people just don't give the show enough credit when it comes to the good stuff. But anyways, Lori's angry, but she's unsurprised that her family missed her so much that they took these measures. So she calms down and they volunteer to help her with her apartment hunt to make up for it. Ultimately, Lori ends up finding a place right next door that she can afford thanks to, funnily enough, what she did back on campus.
He said I can pay him in golf lessons.
Her family can see their big sister whenever they want, she has her own space, it respects continuity, she can afford the rent despite her unemployment, and all is well that ends well. So imagine how much this episode frustrated me. Turns out, Lori has to pay actual money for rent, and we never learn why.
He said I can pay him in golf lessons.
So that was a fucking lie.
Oh, and get this. That place where Lori bombed the interview? Apparently Luan works there and can get her hired no problem. Since when? Where was this info when Lori first came back? And even then, doesn't Luan have like 4 other jobs already? Party business, babysitter, flipping signs with her boyfriend, amusement park performer. Well, at least that last one got explained. Screw all that though, suddenly she's a barista as if the show's continuity wasn't already a mess. There's worse examples and I've gone over some of them before, but geez man, this lore has enough plot holes. But, for the sake of critique, let's humor it for now. Lori gets the job, she and Luan are co-workers, and honestly, I don't know if it's because we rarely see these 2 loud sisters interact, but it just puts a smile on my face. At first, they're thrilled to be co-workers, but when Luan subs in as the manager, Lori's not exactly happy taking orders from her, no matter how genuinely fair they are. It really doesn't seem like any of the practices are any different from what the real manager would have done, so if they're trying to sell us on Luan being at fault here, it's really not working. Maybe that's what the narrative was going for, but it's really hard to tell. So, Lori volunteers to babysit her siblings while mom and dad are away, including Luan, just to get back at her. Normally, this behavior would really tick me off because it seems harsh and out of character for Lori, but is it? From a writing standpoint, I don't think this is a bad move. Just because Lori is the adult of the loud siblings doesn't mean she's incapable of pettiness and immaturity. And I know firsthand that goes for a lot of adults in my life. And even then, I'd say this behavior matches her well enough. Her whole life, she's basically been second in command in her family. She's shown that she doesn't revel in it, but she's never been in a position with them where she doesn't hold authority when her parents are gone. So when she naturally lacks power even over just one sister, coupled with the strict policies Luan was enforcing, it makes sense for Lori to feel insecure and rather vengeful. It's not the first time she reacted poorly to a change in her status quo, and maybe it won't be the last. Simply put, it's not a problem for someone to behave questionably or be in the wrong, as long as it's in character and the process makes sense. Which in this show is apparently a lot to ask for sometimes. As for the rest of the episode, it's a little too predictable.
I think we all know where this is going, so let's just skip to the end.
Luan gets back at Lori, they keep fighting until they need to put their differences aside, and that's that. All in all, the premise is contrived and forced, the conclusion is predictable, but hey, it made for decent, yet arguably unfinished character development on Lori's end. As for the rest of the season, well, like I implied, it's kind of a mixed bag. I'm gonna keep it real with you, Chief. Nobody cares about Nana Gale, and it was already baffling as is that she has this many episodes. Don't even get me started on Flip's raccoon.
Who are you people?
Stealing Thunder. The messaging is just another lie reveal cliche, except they did it better 2 episodes later. Half of the episode is set at Lincoln's middle school, but most of his friends are gone for some unexplained reason, and I might be alone in this, but I am so fucking sick of David Steele. How many more forgettable-ass, bootleg James Bond episodes are the showrunners gonna keep shoving down our throats? It's forced, it's uninspired, it's boring, it's predictable, and it shows a lack of commitment because remember when Lincoln's biggest nerd craze was that one superhero detective and it made for a lot of great episodes? One of which emphasized his ride-or-die devotion to it? When's the last time that was a plot point? Exactly. I'm not saying it was anything revolutionary, but at least that felt fun and original, which says a lot for a superhero franchise. The only time I genuinely could bring myself to give a damn about the whole spy shtick was when they needed 90 minutes for it, but we'll get to that later. Other than that though, honest to God, this gimmick has done virtually nothing but mindlessly entertain because, let's be real, what has been the messaging behind most of its episodes? It's okay to spy on your neighbors, don't put faith in your family, always borrow money even when you can't pay it back, you'll luck out and go unpunished anyways? We're in 2025, who even asked for these dead-on-arrival parodies? I get that some episodes are just in it for the interactions between characters, and I understand that. Some of the best animated shows I know run on that almost entirely. But when this show tries that more often than not, all I know is that this show is more than capable of entertaining and portraying genuine emotions, and sometimes it's much better when it focuses on that primarily. Heck, they pulled it off, ironically with the subject, but other than that, they just don't. Just my 2 cents though. Can it really be this easy to make a good episode? Because this is probably my favorite of the season, and I've noticed there's kind of a formula to it. Step 1. Work off of a pre-established idea. Yeah, you're 8 seasons in, you can't just go all,
My source is that I made it the fuck up.
Step 2. Build on that idea. Step 3. Keep everyone in character. Step 4. Make good jokes. Step 5. Teach a good lesson for the kids. Come to think of it, no wonder I really like this episode too.
Can't be that easy. It's that easy.
Luan has to avoid talking for the whole day to pass a miming exam, so of course, everything around her just so happens to push her physical and ethical limits, culminating in her giving in to save a whole restaurant from food poisoning. But Luan still passes since mimes are allowed to talk in life-threatening situations. Even then, most of this episode is just creatively funny. The dialogue is concise, the body language, and by extension the animation are on point, and it's overall just a fun time. And I don't know who was on that piano, but give them a raise.
Why, that's no wall, it's a box! Magnificent!
Mrs. B! Don't eat that lobster! It's gone bad!
My only complaint is that maybe Luan's boyfriend should have played a bigger role here since he's gunning for the same achievement. It would have been really sweet to watch them support each other here. Speaking of wasted appearances though. Careless Whisper. A new girl that Lincoln and friends hang out with holding misguided intentions that result in an apology and an acceptance of friendship. Where have I seen that before? Well, At least in this case, they didn't set her up romantically and let it amount to nothing. But this just ironically defeats their purpose for Stella's introduction. Yeah, so much for your girl diversity token, Savino and crew. Or just crew. As if that alone wasn't shallow as this.
Well, look who just became redundant.
God, it was bad enough that they set up Lincoln and Stella through his character growth in what I consider the best episode in the series, only for them to just scrap it all together. For a character that drove so much real development in Lincoln, albeit indirectly sometimes, they have a really bad streak of taking it for granted, and I'm sorry, but Cara's introduction just adds to that. But who cares, right? As long as she's a girl and she's Filipina, that's all that matters, right? Jordan who? Who cares if we literally don't know this character's name, as long as we know she's Salvadoran, right? And not Nicaraguan, as I've come to learn recently. Thank you, comment section. Who cares if this episode and its continuation completely derail Luna's character and turns her into a thoughtless and anxious idiot? Gay romance means 10 out of 10, am I right? Do you see why I detest the prospect of representation in media? Showrunners get so fixated on trivialities like ethnicity and sexuality that they just scrap better ideas in favor of it. More often than not, that includes good writing and what's actually inherent about the character. And you know what? I'm starting to really understand why I really dislike this pairing. Luna and Sam is the equivalent of Mega Garchomp. It might look cool if you're a suck-up, but it ruined its best abstract element just for the attention, and even when I overlook the consequences of Cara's introduction, wasn't this cast already cluttered as is anyways? With how often some of Lincoln's friends get the short end of the stick in screen time? Did we really need to add a 7th member to his group? And not to spoil too much of Season 9, but she's basically a rehash of post-development Ronnie Ann. I really do want to keep an open mind about Cara, guys, but honestly, what would even be the point? Oh wait, I know. More David Steele slot for Season 9.
No.
I'll say this now. This is my least favorite episode of the season, but I'll try to be brief about it. Lenny's gay stereotype coworker wants to sell perfume, and apparently the secret ingredient is Lenny's sweat? Do I need to? Yeah, cue the frame. I can't be too cynical with this franchise anymore. So what does he do? He manipulates the sweetest person in the series into sweating constantly, and when he learns she's been hospitalized, his first conclusion is exactly what he was provoking. What the fuck? You knew damn well this was possible. You kept hurting your friend. It's the reason you're both here as far as you can tell. But now you want to apologize? Oh, but it's okay because it wasn't Lenny who got hurt. There's no real growth or lesson here. Eat shit, Miguel. Wow. It's been a while since we got an above average Luna episode. She and her band want to get a tattoo for a commemoration, but after watching her roadie literally die while getting one. Oh, I'm not exaggerating, that's how it went.
Kids, he made me experience high tide! Oh!
Of course, she's too scared, tries to build up the courage, and fails. So, she gets a fake one, eventually fesses up, and her bandmates admit they were faking it too. Honestly, I didn't think I would enjoy Luna and all the slapstick since most of her episodes hold such solid messaging and character development. And then there's this garbage.
Your booze mean nothing. I've seen what makes you cheer.
Oh, speaking of which, and for like the 100th time, Sam is dead weight in this episode. Once again, you could cut her and her lines out of the episode and it wouldn't make a difference. If I didn't know any better, I'd say they broke up off screen, and normally I'd condemn that, but this pairing is so poorly written, it's the one instance where I would actually encourage it. Imagine getting a whole graphic novel just for being gay and still having no personality. That's embarrassing. But look guys, they're kissing and blushing. That means they're totally into each other, right? Funny how the couple with no chemistry gets pandered to no end, but the ones that have it all don't even get to start. Guys, I don't mean to sound like a broken record, but God, this couple is about as genuine as a straight guy buying a life-size Gardevoir plush. You think you're proving a point, but you just come off as attention-starved and creepy. I swear, this girl is more of a token than the boy intentionally named Token. And if I didn't know any better, I'd say this is a self-insert... Wait, do I know any better?
Flashback.
This isn't a character. This is another stereotypical self-flattering fanfiction OC. Self-flattering fanfiction OC.
Self-flattering fanfiction OC.
Oh no. Well, I would say some things, but I don't have enough information, so moving on. I know I got a bit of a soft spot for Lily, but this is one of those episodes you just can't hate. She's still as adorable and wholesome as ever when she starts getting attached to Lana, like any baby with an older sibling, only for Lana to try to avoid her and to start missing her when she gets attached to Lola instead. It would have been a little better if they showed that Lana enjoyed her company at any point, but the emotions still go through, and my heart still melts in the ending. Even if Lily did gross me out a little at the start. Okay, now let's get to the elephants in the room. Close Encounters of the Nerd Kind. The second time the series has ever done an hour-long episode, and it's for Halloween? I don't know what gives, but hey, you have my attention. To start, there's a couple of things I liked. Darcy makes another appearance, and well, I just can't hate this moment.
Trick or treat, I'm Darcy.
Lucy feels like she's losing her touch when she can't scare anyone through the family haunted house, something she usually excels in as we come to know. And I really wish this was focused on more throughout the episode because it might have made for some decent emotional storytelling, but for some reason that's not really the main plot. With that being said, the main plot is kinda dumb. About 20 minutes into the episode, I couldn't help but to start asking myself, what the fuck is going on? Suddenly, Lincoln and his friends are really into the Star Trek ripoff, and they like it so much that they're dressed up as its characters. Suddenly, aliens are kidnapping people. Oh, yeah, aliens are real now, by the way, in this world. Oh, and by the end, Lincoln's squad knows how to land a whole-ass spaceship from watching said Star Trek ripoff. And for some reason, the moral of the story is, don't make fun of nerds.
Sorry we gave you a hard time earlier.
What hard time? You laughed at a guy for literally flexing too hard. Other than that, though, you were kind of doing the opposite.
Yikes! Do you guys want me to come with you for protection?
Huh? What do you mean?
You look like a magnet for bullies. No offense.
So, what? If SpongeBob played enough Mario Kart, does that mean he's entitled to a driver's license now? I'm gonna be real with you guys, a lot of this episode doesn't make any sense or feels appropriate for a simplistic show like this. Time and again, they keep pushing these supernatural gimmicks and topping it off with writing that makes no sense most of the time anyways. Very rarely does it work, and even then, this show still doesn't need it. At least, and amidst all the bullshit, we actually got a handful of moments between Lincoln and Stella because in the span of 5 seasons, somehow it wasn't warranted to these showrunners until now. I wonder why. Yeah, who cares about building a real bond between characters when you can just scrap that for redundancy, or pretend it was always there for brownie points when it clearly wasn't? Oh, this conversation isn't over, but it'll have to wait. I'm gonna be real with you guys, I didn't like a single episode of the Europe road trip except for one, but I won't say which one until we get to it. A Night to Remember. Do I think this international rock star appreciates Luna's admiration and performs at her local high school as a favor? Maybe not, but that's its own issue. Do I think he would pay for a trip to London for her family of 13, of all people, for a knighting ceremony?
No!
Not even close, and that's just the first of this episode's problems. Myrtle's boss is on a mission at the event, and oh, great. Lincoln's back on his secret agent high horse because it's not like it almost got his whole family killed last time or anything. It's not like he shamefully discarded the comics that spawned it or traded his collectible watch as a symbolic gesture. Oh, and what happens this time? He's eager to help the spies as if none of that growth ever happened. Oh, and how do things go repetitively wrong this time? He gets a celebrity kidnapped. Maybe I didn't make enough of a point of it before, but do you see why I really haven't liked this whole spy gimmick? All of the emotions and character growth from a movie with a ridiculous premise as is, undone only half a season later for some uninspired tension. As far as this anthology is concerned, this episode gave me a really bad first impression, and it hardly gets better for the most part. A Bite in Transylvania. A place apparently so spooky that Lily needs her eyes and ears covered the whole time. But for some reason, that idea is forgotten almost as soon as it's introduced. But anywho, we got a classic staying in a creepy shelter because your right is busted trope with a good old don't judge a book by its cover lesson. Take it away, Candace.
That's why books have covers, to judge them. I mean, why did you choose these books from the library?
They looked interesting.
So?
Point taken.
Even if the moral was consistent, what's the point of teaching it when they literally say it out loud 3 minutes in?
You always tell us not to judge a book by its cover.
I swear, man, sometimes this show is just allergic to subtlety. If they just kept the episode the same but made it so that they really were vampires after the Louths left, it honestly would have been so much more unique and compelling, and for once, the supernatural stuff wouldn't have disregarded the intended simplicity of the show. But no, it's just an innocent pair of pale-ass Romanians. Alpining away. Huh. A love interest for Lynn that was comfortable with who she is from the start, manages to keep up with her physically, and helps her with her moral shortcomings just by being himself. Wait, who's Henrik? I was talking about Liam.
Well, look who just became redundant.
But sure, screw real chemistry. Let's do that all over again because these showrunners have no good faith in their ideas. Oh, and for good measure, let's have him spearhead the next Christmas special. What are the odds we'll see him again after that? Wouldn't be the first time they discarded the European love interest of a Louth sister. Okay, that's another thing that bothers me about this whole road trip. We got a whole anthology about traveling through Europe, and it didn't occur to these writers to revisit the family ancestral home or address what happened with Lenny's boyfriend from there since, you know, she's with someone else now? Honestly, if there's any romantic drama that was worth tackling here, it wasn't Lynn's, but what do I know? Even with all this wasted potential though, somehow, we're still not at my least favorite episode of the bunch. Grease is the word. More supernatural gimmicks with a half-assed moral, complemented with a bunch of random junk that nobody asked for. Bro, I swear, this episode is the embodiment of that one Moon Knight meme. If it turned out to all be a dream, maybe I could respect it for embracing so many silly ideas, but no. We got a helm that takes Lincoln back in time, the first person he comes across looks exactly like his best friend, somehow, and he has to undergo several dangers from Greek mythology to make it back. Teaching him to appreciate history. Wait, what? Everything he just dealt with is literal myth, but I guess that's real in this world too, because God forbid the slice of life show be remotely realistic. Either that, or reality itself had to lie to our protagonist just to get the plot's message across. Okay, all of this came out of nowhere, it's trying way too hard to stand out, and none of it makes any sense. Who wrote this episode? Oh, yeah, wait, really? That too? I should not be surprised. Don't get me wrong, guys. Kevin Sullivan is capable of writing a decent episode, and some of the best when he's not at it alone, which says a lot. But when he misses, well, let me put it this way. He feels like the kind of guy who would brag about killing the hostage. I swear, I have never seen a screenwriter stroke his own ego so hard with the audacity to pass it off as sentimental. I think there's a huge underlying issue in this franchise that I can connect to this dude's work. But first, let's get to the one episode of the road trip I actually liked. I know it's gonna sound crazy, but I think the most tame of these episodes is by far the best one. The family travels to Naples to try the world's greatest pizza and hopefully get the recipe. The owner of it in question sends them on a wild goose chase in hopes that they quit on the idea because the recipe is a family secret, of course. A chase involving a meatball-flinging guardsman, an unstable cow, and an active volcano. On paper, it seems simple enough, all things considered. Well, at least by this franchise's bizarre standards. But just take a moment to think about some of the ideas presented in the episode. Why are they traveling to Italy? Well, what's the one food this family is known for loving to a fault?
Honey, there's pizza at stake here. Look, free pizza!
Who tipped them off about it? The Italian owner of the pizza arcade Lincoln frequents. How and why did Lynn tank the meatballs of all people? Well, what's the one food she loves most and eats frequently throughout the series?
Oh, too many meatball subs.
Rather than still making crazy shit up or betraying growth 8 seasons in, they worked with what's been there and it adds up. And even then, The episode's funny. It's also stupid, but in all the right ways. A pizza so good it rewires a dumbass into speaking fluent Italian. A classic dust cloud over just a piece of crust. And the goth having a scythe just to harvest wheat. And absolutely nothing else.
Please tell me you knew we'd be harvesting wheat today.
Sure.
See? You don't need fake vampires, celebrity kidnappings, or another uninspired love story to draw attention. Something as simple as getting pizza ingredients can be engaging. And for good measure, we got the lore on Lynn Sr.'s cowbelling, and it's so simple, but honestly, it's just really sweet.
I used to play this one to soothe you guys to sleep.
Unlike the rest of this anthology, it's creative, it's fun, it keeps the slice of life spirit, and seeing how that's all disregarded more often than not, I can now see why this show has the problems it does. Why do I have this nagging feeling that almost everything about this franchise nowadays feels botched and passionless? Well, why do you think they keep introducing new side characters just to repeat ideas that were already done with others? Why do I feel like we'll never get a bold moment like this one ever again? Why do you think Lincoln hopped back on the whole spy train without even thinking about the consequences from last time? Why do you think live-action Lincoln was crushing on yet another new girl, even though he canonically already did that? Why do you think Sam and Luna knew nothing about each other before the first date, even though they were supposedly good friends beforehand? Why do you think that instead of breaking them up and or pretending it never happened, like several other romantic setups, they last all these seasons with no real explanation, no chemistry, no personality on one end, blatant derailment of Luna's character, and even a graphic novel just in tribute to their sexuality? With a target audience of children, mind you.
You realize how messed up that sounds, right?
If I can be a bit more broad, why did the test screenings of a Pixar film fail to win over a single soul? To start, in the months that I have been studying this franchise and, ironically, thanks to the efforts of certain writers, I've learned that representation, diversity, inclusion, whatever you want to call it, ultimately accomplishes nothing. Or worse, and I don't mean to exaggerate, it's dehumanizing. There's a reason it only works well when it's treated ironically or a lot more passively. And yet, arguably the series' worst writer, now its co-producer by the way, has the balls to claim it's essential. More often than not, this show neglects its true identity by not comprehending the emotions it invokes in their entirety. And in the rare times it does, well, it's taken for granted. Why do you think I consider this the best episode in the whole series? Is it simply because there's a love interest for Lincoln? If I were that shallow, I'd ship him with Cara for the hell of it, and I would have no problems with Sam. Or is it because of the emotional comprehension, the character development, the genuine comedy, the details, the consistency, and the continuity? Or rather, continuity in good faith. Why did Lincoln pretend to be a tough guy in hopes of winning over this new girl? Ask the girl that tried that on him. How did he avoid his sisters in the process at first? Again, what's the one food his family loves to a fault?
Look, free pizza!
Why did he distrust them to begin with?
The last time I took your girl advice, I ended up with a black eye.
How did he realize that this was the wrong way to go at things amidst his nightmares and his emotional turmoil? There are 10 girls in his life who know him better than anyone, the very essence of this series, who even with their drama, their pranking, their creepiness, their aggression, and the stress in general, they still see, scratch that, they know the best in him, and they tell him that when he needed to hear it. Not just because they love him too, but because, well, we have 2 seasons worth of evidence at this point. So when he meets a girl he's blatantly in love with of his own accord, and even to this day, lacks all the issues of every other girl he's close with, I couldn't help but think that there was meant to be more in the narrative between them. The self-proclaimed man with the plan who overthinks everything to where he always misses something and lives with 10 girls who stress him out too much for his own good, found someone who indirectly but ultimately brought out his true identity. No joke, this is some of the strongest character development I've ever seen in a kids show, especially in the slice of life genre. No death, negativity, or any sort of touchy subject. Just a subtle but clear amalgamation of our protagonist's thoughts, feelings, history, and ambitions. All thanks to just her introduction. It's just a romance between 12-year-olds, grow up. But instead of continuing those powerful ideas, building a meaningful bond just between them, evolving a romantic storyline in a way that isn't forced, half-assed, or both, while also forming a new friendship like they did, what did we get in its place? A trite lesson about boys not jumping the gun with their gal pals.
Oh, come on!
You have such a legitimately heartfelt romantic setup, formed by the very heart and soul of this series, and this is all you're ever gonna do with it? I'm sorry, maybe I was being too optimistic about it before, and full disclosure, I really hate getting wrapped up in a shipping war, especially about kids, but am I alone in finding this to be insufferably tone deaf? How do these writers manage to be so out of touch with their own characters? This whole episode teaches that boys shouldn't pine for romance with a girl just because she's friendly. With context, this makes no sense. Because 1, she's new in town and by extension she has no friends. 2, and more importantly, they just met her! No shit, she's not looking for a boyfriend? Maybe for this cocky bozo there's something to teach, but for the protagonist? The premise and the message are dead on arrival. Last time he assumed he got a black eye, and it's what led to his growth through Stella to begin with, but fuck it. He'll totally freeze up with someone he already befriended and listen to the wannabe Casanova in the first place. What, was he like this for the whole bus ride after meeting her? This episode fails from the start. If it was treated like a healthy setback between Lincoln and Stella, I could trust that the messaging was in good faith, but it's been almost 6 seasons since then. I wouldn't put it beneath these writers to think, that's done. Who cares about real love and the emotional growth of the show when diversity's in its DNA? Yeah, how'd that play out for the other ones? A bland pandering tool and a canceled series so uninspired, they think they need Aztec gods. See what I meant when I said it's dehumanizing? And this manages to reflect the biggest issue with this entire franchise. It's not the bad writing, the twisted morals, the plot holes, the character derailment, or even the pandering per se. For a long time now, the Loud House is for all intents and purposes unprincipled. I said it near the very beginning of my first video of this show. They care more about what the characters are than they ever cared about who they are. To writers like Kevin Sullivan, these aren't families. They're just props with no real nuance in their humanity. Why do you think his worst episode, and one of the worst in the franchise, is the one where they're all gender bent? Or say, the one that claims girls can solve their problems when boys go away? Why do you think the other couple he wrote for is so much better written than the one he flaunts? While that one is nothing but contrivances, emotional emptiness, and plot holes. How often do you see this family say, I love you, or so much as hug each other? Very rarely, especially in the later seasons. Because people like him conflate ethnicity, sexuality, and high stakes with emotion, personality, good storytelling, and virtue. In retrospect, I owe him one. Because thanks to his poor writing, I know now that they are not one and the same. Not even close. So yeah, please excuse me for rolling my eyes at the end of L is for Love. Please, pardon me for reading right through this euphemism for shallow attention from a movement named literally after the opposite of humility. Slander me as a homophobe all you want. I don't mean to be too condescending, but you're just proving my point. And sorry for constantly ridiculing a pairing so lousily put together, its writer doesn't even know the recognized name after 8 years.
Am I so out of touch?
Because as Luna's character derailment through Sam shows, he was not trying to be genuine or even subtle. He just didn't give a damn in the name of, you guessed it, diversity and inclusion. Amidst my contempt for everything in the spy gimmick, why do you think I actually liked No Time to Spy? Not for the twist villain, or the stakes, or the premise, or anything along those lines, but rather because the emotions are earned. How would this movie have played out if Lincoln wasn't so caught up in his fantasies? Well, it would have ended in about 20 minutes. His comic book obsession is what got Myrtle kidnapped and led his family right into the villain's trap, giving her exactly what she wanted, resulting in him sacrificing himself and later selling his collectible watch to make up for what he lost. The film uses the excessive grandeur of the plot to discourage excessive grandeur, using war as a business to end war as a business. Or so I thought. When you think of great shows in TV and animation, how would you summarize its overarching themes with one trait? Mystery? Joy? Purpose? Connection? Companionship? Compromise? So, how would you summarize a slice of life kids cartoon about a boy and his large immediate family? What should be the most fundamental principle of any good family, especially one this big? Love. Love between them, and love that we could have seen be passed on from what our protagonist learns, what he thinks, what he does, who he does it for, willingly, who he is, and seeing how it guides him in a future this innocent 12-year-old boy would believably seek. Love that feels real. But who cares about that when he can just go back to his toxic ex turned diversity prop while aligning with the views of a convicted sex offender? Yeah, the abusive pervert still ships the lead with an abuser. Shocker. Nothing says love like getting harassed, putting up with it because you're told she might like you, and when you just can't take it anymore, go on a date with her or your own sister will hurt you too. It's not a coincidence that this resembles why Savino got fired, and there's a reason he took Stella for granted, even though he wrote her into existence. I'm sorry, but no amount of solid character growth or genuine friendship here is going to change how Lincoln and Ronnie Yang getting together would come off as regressive, toxic, and codependent. Why? Because she could straight up admit she doesn't like Lincoln romantically, defy a prophecy of them getting together, get proven right, it all adds up, and nothing would change in the eyes of this staff. Oh wait, all of that actually happened.
Or I could just suck it up and tell him I don't feel the same way.
But of course, let's subtly shove them together anyways. If even after all of this, these showrunners are still so artistically and morally bankrupt, then well, no wonder their biggest flex is tokenism. Not that it was ever an accomplishment. No wonder this fandom is so perverted. No wonder Sam dumps Luna for Lincoln in a popular fan comic. No wonder public discussion on current episodes is so minimal. If they can't even think about putting consistent, genuine, and appropriate concern into their characters, if all they're hinging on is skin color and sexuality, again, in a damn kids show of all places, then why shouldn't the audience take the same liberty so openly, no matter how bold or disturbing they are? And well, no wonder the Loud House is the laughingstock of the internet. And if it weren't for episodes like this, I'd still be going right along with it. Do you see why I encourage the idea of exploring a romance between Lincoln and Stella? I hate to be so preachy about shipping of all things, but I don't mean to exaggerate when I say this could have been the best thing this show ever had. And maybe it still can be. It holds a setup teeming with so much honest growth, nuance, continuity, dignity, innocence, and emotion that it could serve as a clean slate for the franchise. A setup courtesy of a man who ironically condemns the pairing, but are we really still gonna care what he thinks about that? As for the future of this franchise, I can see what could still be done, and I've talked about it before. And I wouldn't be so vocal about it if it didn't feel so achievable. But ultimately, It's not my call. Not even close. So from where I'm standing, only time will tell if this franchise decides to get its act together with a renewed sense of direction. But as of now, the current state of the Loud House is bleak.